I'm going to open the meeting.
Seltzer.
It's open. There's no Zoom.
Yeah, it's open.
We are being recorded though, so that is good.
Okay, this is the meeting of the Parks Commission, Wednesday, November 6th. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and it will be broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel and uploaded to the Lunenburg Access Channel YouTube channel. This meeting will be held in person at the location provided in the notice. The agenda lists all topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. So unfortunately, due to technical difficulties tonight, we do not have Zoom available for our meeting, but this meeting is being recorded. Thank you for doing that. We appreciate it. And we also apologize for the small meeting room tonight. This is not our usual location, so we appreciate people's understanding in that. So in opening the meeting, I'm going to take roll call. Myself, Anita Scheiper, as chair.
Chris Sullivan.
Karen Menard.
Colleen Shapiro.
Okay. And at this point, we are missing member Tim Lawless.
Angela, no, we don't know.
Okay. We do not have a facilities director formal update this evening. I did receive an email from Chris Ruth, our facilities director, and he unfortunately had a conflict tonight. He did just want to give a brief update that he is working, for the bulk of the parks, they're working on the fall cleanups and some infield maintenance to keep the stone dust weed free in the various locations. They also have a landscaper doing a big cleanup of Veterans Park before the holiday weekend. They should be complete with that by the end of the day on Thursday. He's not sure if anyone had any actual plans to do any ceremonies at the park on Veterans Day, but they can put out flags on Friday if needed. Are we aware of any?
No, we usually put flags up for Memorial Day.
Okay, so not needed. Okay. He also said that the Board of Health agent had asked him for an update in regards to the money that they have available for the septic system. That'll come into discussion later on when we talk about Marshall Park. So that's a very brief update from Chris Ruth. Does anyone have any questions that I need to give to Chris to respond to over the next few weeks?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Okay. We also do not have Recreation Director.
I have a quick one from her.
Okay, so Karen, you want to give that update?
So I did talk to Angela briefly today. She did send out an email with a sign-up link for help on those Tuesdays and Thursday nights that she wants to run events. Anna has graciously offered to close up on those nights, but it's always good to have backup. So if anybody's still interested in possibly either covering a night or just being backup, let her know. The Spring All Vendor event, she talked to Josie Gilchrist today after getting confirmation late in the day that town meeting was in fact the first Saturday of May. They're looking at the 10th of May for their All Vendor event.
Okay. I know we had briefly discussed dates. Does anyone have any issue with the 10th?
No. I think that's a good one. Do we need to motion to do it on that day? Make it official?
It wouldn't hurt.
Okay, so I'll make a motion for Angela to proceed with planning of the All Vendor Fair on May 10th, 2025.
I'll second.
Okay. I'm going to say Chris seconded. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay. At the request of the interim town manager, Carter Terenzini, he has asked that, because he's here present tonight, he's asked that we move up the Marshall Park updates discussion to the next part of the agenda. So in deference to him and the long hours he's putting in on behalf of the town.
And I have to be at the school committee yet.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to move item 10 up to the next discussion point. So, the way we left it at the last discussion for Marshall Park, we had agreed that Because of the unfortunate increase in the cost estimate provided by the very reputable cost estimating firm that our new landscape design team provided, the Marshall Park project is now basically $4 million over what we had originally anticipated. And that cost increase goes within phase one and all remaining work as well. So we do not have enough funds available at this time to do the phase one work. And as a result of that, at our last meeting, we voted to not move ahead with the special town meeting article, which would be authorizing additional debt borrowing for Marshall Park. Because what we need, the consensus of the committee was that we need to continue to work with the design team, finish the design, get a fully updated cost estimate, and then come back to town meeting in the spring. We'll see. That's our confirmation we need to make tonight to move this project forward. But we just do not feel ready to present this at this special town meeting on November 12th. So. In your packet, members, you'll see that we have information from the design team. And what they have done was they had pulled together conceptual ideas of how they could reconfigure the phasing of Marshall Park for us to bring this back to town meeting in the spring. You'll see in the diagram that looks like this, what they're talking about is breaking out the what we originally had planned as phase one, meaning the all the parks grant related items that we would have done. So it's the pavilion, the playground, the pickleball courts, basketball courts. That is now what we're going to call 1A. 1B would be the parking and utilities, etc. Then we have phase two, which would be, phase 2A is the softball field and the baseball field. And then 2B, they excuse me. And the parking area, thank you, off of Chestnut. And 2B, they decided that it was important to separate those buildings out from the other work because buildings are procured under a different chapter of state procurement law. So they thought it would be better to break those out so that, it would not be part and parcel of what we call a horizontal project, but it would be, separately bid out as building construction projects. So 2A would be the fields, 2B would be the construction of the pavilion / concession / bathroom facilities next to the playground, and also the smaller bathroom facility that is located to the left of the softball field, or to the northwest of the softball field, I should say. So then 3A would include all the remaining work. It would be the boardwalk areas around the Marshall Pond and the pavilion over on Marshall Pond and the dog park. So what the design team and Skanska has done is to try to put together the very strongest numbers they could as to what it would cost for us to move ahead with that design work to get us ready to put phase 1 and phase 2, so phase 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, to basically 60% or permitting design level in time for town meeting. And this would involve getting updated cost estimates so that before town meeting, we would have that design for those two phases finalized. We would have updated cost estimates. And what they're saying is that we need roughly $300,000 to do that, in the range of $250,000 to $300,000. The reason why it's important to get this information is because we have that $1 million of ARPA funds, and the selectmen and town manager are wondering how much of this will we actually use for the Marshall Park project between now and the next town meeting? And what can we potentially give back to the town so that other town departments can use these ARPA funds before the deadline of the end of this calendar year? So it looks like we have between 250,000 and 300,000 that we will need for our project, and that would leave a balance of 750 to 700,000 that would be available to return back to the town for use by other departments. So Carter's here this evening. He did present this information to the Board of Selectmen last night. Carter, do you have any comments that you want to share with us?
Well, first, the good news. No one's talking about taking the full $1 million. Still supportive of the project and trying to move forward. Secondly, I want to say to you that I'm not sure, with no disrespect to my predecessor or anyone else, I'm not sure you've received the kind of support from the town staff that you need. And Chris Ruth has been appointed your in-house project manager, and he was delighted to hear that this morning. Thirdly, the contingency estimates are not going to work, because the problem is I have to be under contract or expended fully by December 31. If there's a contingency, a change order, anything like that, that does not get spent, we lose it. So we have to figure out a workaround on that. And I think we have one, because outside of the ARPA money itself, the bad news is you haven't been getting the money spent. The great news is you've been building up interest over $125,000 on it. So we have some ways to work around it. I think the best thing is if we can get these two firms to give us their bills. Get us their bills by Tuesday morning. We'll get them processed. That cleans everything out, and we can see exactly where we sit on the 184 that you had from the town meeting. And then work with them to get their final numbers final. Because there are a few things that I've mentioned to you I think are missing. There was no public presentations in the numbers. And Zoom meetings with you all might work great. They're not going to work for pulling the sheet off the phone cord and showing people what it's all about. They need to be in the room. They need to listen to people. And, that may be 2 or 3 meetings. And frankly, those are probably going to be about $3,000 a pop. They'll have 2 folks probably getting ready. These folks are probably around, the 2 of them, $400 an hour, 3 hours prep. They come out here. So it's generally $2,500 to $3,000 or a little bit more. The other thing is that they need to do test pits, if I read the proposal right, but I didn't see monies for observing the test pit. We need to make sure somebody's on site to make that observation. So what I'd like to do, if you're agreeable, is to have you all make it clear to these 2 firms they got to get their bills in. They're usually pretty good about that. Sometimes they're not. That'll let us clear out, find out where we are on the 184. I'd like to work with your chairman on Tuesday, perhaps, to have another session with the designer early in the morning to walk through concerns that we have. And just so you'll know, I'm not an expert at it, but I did manage the construction of several state parks, several of the heritage state parks, and probably close to 1,000 housing units. So I've worked with designers. I have a sense of what we need to do. That would get me set up for Wednesday night with a tighter number, because I really need to, once we bring it in, if we bring it in at a 750 turnback, that's what it's going to be. If we bring it in at a 700 turnback and you don't really need it, don't use it, I'm going to have to deal with the folks that we gave that number to. So the tighter we can get the number and feel more comfortable with the scope of work, I think is in everyone's best interests. If that's agreeable with you all, happy to answer any questions on the ARPA money, why the deadline, my commitment to providing you with better staff support, I mean, on any of these range of things, just let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Carter, I like everything that you just had to say, and I will. I know Anita knew this because I had given her a heads up. I had a public comment prepared for the end of this meeting that after you making the statement that you didn't think we had the support we needed internally, I'm not going to make that comment anymore. I just asked for you to make
I
sure.
think you just did.
Well, I did. You know, it was a bit more scathing and a little bit more detailed than that. But if you could just make sure that your select board is aware of, you know, that you noticed this as well, because we had invited people to the table and nobody wanted to come. So it was not our doing that we had nobody here. So I'm very grateful that you are stepping up into this and have been involved in our meetings and coming here tonight. So thank you.
Well, I mean, this is a team effort. No one can do, you know, no one can do these things on their own.
Yeah.
I usually did solo sports other than soccer, but it is a team sport, and we need to work on
Yeah.
it together.
Yeah.
Is Skanska, our contract with Skanska covered underneath like the observation that Carter was referencing? Is that something that already is under?
Yeah, so
Skanska?
actually, we're
In
all
terms
set
of-
with the Skanska contract. For the amount that Skanska is proposing that we may need to get us through to town meeting, the existing contract is fine for Skanska. We will have to amend the contract with RDLA, the design team.
But the observations that he was referencing, is that covered by Skanska, under Skanska, or
It
is
will
that
be.
an RDLA
No,
thing? So we already
have
paid.
enough funds within the
So
Skanska
that's already
contract
covered.
already authorized to cover us. It's
I
what,
just want to make it clear in the work
Yeah.
order that we're expecting this work.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
so there
Okay.
may need to be adjustments within the design team
Okay.
contract to reflect Carter's concerns. So
Gotcha.
that's important.
All right.
Okay. So, you know, the purpose tonight of, you know, having Marshall Park be on the agenda was for us to make the definitive decision to move ahead. I mean, when we last met, the thought was we had options. We either, you know, moved ahead with, you know, the town meeting, and even though we did not feel we were prepared to bring forward a confident project to town meeting. So we said, what else are our options? Either we, you know, move ahead and continue with design work so that we can present a full project with updated cost estimates at the spring town meeting, or do we just stop and just take a pause and regroup and decide what we want to do? I really would like us tonight to have a definitive decision that makes it clear to everyone how we want to move forward with this. Any comments?
I'm all for bringing this to town meeting in May and moving this project forward. I think there's been a ton of investment, not just at this table, but we've had community support for this. I think it's the right decision for the town. I think we've demonstrated good support for this project, so I'm in favor of taking this new rephased sort of, you know, plan to town meeting in May and continuing to plow forward with this project. I think it's a necessary deal for the town to improve a utilized, you know, an underutilized space. Keep it going.
Okay. Anyone else?
I agree with Chris. Well said.
Karen, any comments?
I agree.
I just want to add one point, that with this new concept of the new phasing, it's important to note that any one of these phases, 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, they can all be done individually without impacting any other portion of the park. So that while work is being done, say on 1A, that will not preclude anyone from using the other fields or the skate park or what have you. We specifically asked about the skate park at the design team meeting, and they said no, they would make sure, and it would be a contractor obligation to make sure that there was access to the skate park during, you know, the construction. So, you know, when we bring this to town meeting and town meeting decides how much, you know, they want to provide to us for funds for moving Marshall Park improvements ahead, we can tell them with full confidence that each and every one of these components, these phases, is individualized enough so that it can be done without impact to use of the other portions of the park, which I thought was a fantastic improvement.
In a different order, can it be done in different order? I guess the only thing that I noticed when I look at this is, I guess, so if we start, if phase one was actually the first phase, we're doing a lot of paving and parking lot sort of structure and so forth, but then I assume there obviously then needs to be access to other areas, and is the good work we're putting in on 1B then being damaged
No.
going into,
No, there was a lot of discussion about that at the
Okay.
design team meeting.
Good.
They felt very confident about that. And actually, Carter was part of that design team meeting, and he asked, shouldn't we try to do 1A and 1B together so that the
impact is minimal.
Yeah, so that,
Yeah.
there was, full parking, et cetera, for people to be able to come in and use all of the park access. And the way it was explained by the design team that, when they bring the utilities in, even if it's not, paved over or what have you, the surface will be usable. And there will still, as you might recall, there will still be areas for handicap parking, temporary handicap parking, that will be put in place so that if 1A, meaning the pavilion, the playground, the basketball courts, pickleball courts, et cetera, are done, there will be handicapped accessibility to that, what's there. And then if 1B ends up getting done, say the next year or the next season, what have you, still everything is usable and will meet code. So I thought that was really important.
Yeah,
I was pleased about
great.
that.
And they did reconfigure the playground a little bit, and I think it's a little bit smaller than what the original
Yes.
was. But they did point out that if we wanted to make it bigger, we could do that down the road if we so chose to do that, which was, again, as they were going through this. And Nick Betts was there, who's been with us since the start of all of this.
He's the engineer doing all
Yeah,
these.
from Meridian. He just listening to him talk on that, it makes sense, and I like the fact that, if the town only wants to do part of it, then that's all we do. If the town wants to do the whole thing or half of it, we can do that too. This gives the town better choices,
Yeah.
which I'm very appreciative of.
And I think Chris asked, but I didn't. Can they be done in a different order, a different phasing order?
They could, although, 1A by itself, if we do what they're proposing first, which would be the playground, the court sports, and the pavilion,
No, the pavilion's not in the first.
the
one.
pavilion pad.
Yes, the pad.
Yep. So that would mean that, the pad would get poured, but the building would not be built. Then the second phase would be that the utilities come in, and utilities would get capped to go out to future sites. So it really made sense what they were proposing in terms of the logistics and the process. We can certainly ask them again if there is opportunity to, change the order. But I have to say, it made a lot of sense.
I just was like, the order's fine with me, but in case we
It's a
brought it
timing
to
thing.
town meeting and somebody said, can we do 1A and 1B, and maybe it makes sense if we can still use these fields, to keep using those fields. People would like to use the area in 3A. They would like
Yep.
the walking areas. I'm just curious,
We could
how-
double check. But I think part of why 1A is because of our storm drainage
Yes.
issues that are there. And I don't think the amount of storm drainage that has to go in, if we were to move these fields, the 90-foot and the softball field, I think they need that.
They need the
They
drainage
need
to be
that
in
drainage.
place.
So I don't think. I don't
that
think
has to
1
be
and
done
2 could flip.
first.
Correct. I don't think 1 and 2 could flip. I think 3A and 3B seem to be more standalone, but we can verify that.
Although they did say that 3A and 3B, because those involve the wetland areas and around Mercer Park, those will involve a lot more permitting, et cetera.
right, right.
So that's why they were kind of pushing those off to the latter portion
that
of
makes
the
sense.
project.
Yeah.
Okay, does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to move forward with the updated plan with a new request at town meeting in May. Is that-
Okay. Anyone want to second that?
I can second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
Give the two of you an option again. If either one of you want to take my spot on the design team, you're welcome to go. Their meetings are on Thursdays. So if you want to switch, now's the time to get in as we're sort of restarting some of the process. Don't jump at the same time. Okay.
We'll fight it out later.
We'll arm wrestle.
Yeah.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Okay.
So you'll reach out for those bills tomorrow and try to set.
I will.
I did hear about 9:15 on Tuesday, so if we could try for 10.
Okay.
That would give us maximum time for me to be ready for Wednesday.
We do have a new RDLA bill in tonight that we're going to be approving, so it'll just be a case of what we can get from Skanska. Okay.
Okay. Anything else I can do for you? Thank you. With you?
I think we're in good shape. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
We'll see you at the Tuesday night party.
Oh, that's what it is, a party? That's what it's
I don't
called?
know if we call it that. Does it make it feel better about having
Maybe
to
more
go?
people will come.
Have a good evening.
Bye, Carter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Someone's welcome to take his seat. Don't all fight for it.
You had a hand up too. Did you have a question? Sorry.
No, I don't. I figured that's one of the first meetings I've been to. I don't know my place, and I got to.
We're a little more loose, so if you have questions in the midst of our agenda, you can ask. Just state your name and address for the record.
Actually, Craig LaFreniere, 15 Park Street Terrace, Lunenburg. I was curious about some of the plan, and I'm coming into this late, so forgive me. Where can I find the maintenance, like the projected 5-year, 10-year maintenance plan for the project itself?
There isn't one yet. I don't believe we have a projected maintenance.
Maintenance
for it.
plan is not in
No.
place as yet. We have to finish the design first before we can determine any maintenance.
But then we were sure that it'll be a regularly, yearly,
Yes, that will be the
I'm
responsibility of
curious.
the facilities director, yes.
Okay, good. Because with part of the program, we're in trying to fill up that underused space as Lunenburg Youth Baseball and Softball. We want to know kind of where we're going to be as far as volunteering, what we need to do, part of that maintenance, because so far up to now, we carry that burden a lot. So I'm interested and when these phases are completed, who's taking care of what, from trash to bathrooms, those types of things. To
Facilities. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And so there'll be a budget for that. There'll be
Yeah,
a
yeah.
projection.
I think we've been. I mean, I think Marshall Park is in the condition it's in because it hasn't been maintained.
Correct. yeah.
So I think the work that, just speaking for myself personally, the work that's going into this, that everyone at this table has done for several years now, I think we're all very passionate about making sure that what goes in place there is well maintained going forward.
And forgive me,
I
I
think-
come in a little
yeah,
later.
no.
I've been here for 50
No, I guess,
years
yeah.
as well, and I've seen just Lunenburg puts a lot of things in place and then hands them
Yep.
off, and it just
Yes, there's been a lot of things in town that are not well maintained, and we don't want this project to be one of those things. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I appreciate that.
Well, and I think, like, in the scope of the user fee.
Name and address, sir.
Yes. 207 Rolling Acres Road, Lunenburg. I mean, in the context of the user fee conversation, we're talking about the cost of maintenance per player, as an example, right? I imagine new facilities are going to be a lot pricier to maintain than some old baseball, softball fields. And so, that math, it's I think to Greg's point is it's interesting to think about. Yes, we'll have that maintenance budget available in the future for these brand new facilities, given the conversation we're about to have.
and that being said, because they go along, the intent here, I think, of Marshall Park is it's a more widely utilized space going forward. Right now, Marshall Park is not utilized other than two sports. In reality,
If we look at it this
you know,
way, Lunenburg Youth Baseball and Softball brings over 5,000 visitors to our parks.
oh yeah, I'm not discrediting.
What other program
Yeah.
here from the senior center to different things brings in that many visitors. So I would think that the niche that we've carved out and the investments that we put in financially, getting the folks, community building, those types of things.
Sure.
We might have a lot of consideration and a lot of communication on our part in those things. Maybe even some priority. That for 50-something years.
Yeah, and the parks that are under our purview lend themselves to that sport only.
Parks and Rec, yeah.
Parks and Rec, under park.
77% of all Parks and Rec is just the fields.
It's, well, just
Is that about
the
right?
land that we oversee, the only sports that it caters to is baseball and softball. So in fair, like, so soccer, for instance, there's 500 kids in town play soccer in the fall. So, and there's future land, hopefully, that we can develop at some point to develop soccer fields and open space rectangular fields to continue to drive those sorts of things and alleviate the pressure of those fields that are getting the crap kicked out of them. They're in terrible condition. And we don't want to see our parks get to that condition, the shape that they're in. So I think we're,
I coached with the Bengals, and we were pushed off our own fields in Lunenburg out to Shirley
and Air, yeah.
So we know the field
Yeah.
needs. They're beautiful fields, but just a lot of empty spaces, times not being utilized. Very familiar. So yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Okay. I would like to just get a few quick items done before we go into the user fee discussion, if we could. We have a new invoice from RDLA, and it's dated October 31st, invoice number 2455-02. And this current invoice amount is $24,200. It includes continuing design development for $11,150, permitting work, which Karen and I can attest that there's been a lot of that going on. That's $11,730, and construction-related documents $1,320 for a total of $24,200. So to Carter's point, if we could get this approved tonight and get this moving forward for payment, could I take a motion from somebody to approve this?
Motion to approve the RDLA invoice.
Okay, someone second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. So Karen and I are going to sign this off as the authorized signatories on invoices. Okay, thank you.
What did you? I already signed. I thought I signed another one too.
You did those were the ones were approved last time that you signed on Friday?
But is there another one in there that needs your signature that just has my signature on it?
Oh, I'll check.
Okay, I think there is. Just sign that.
It looked identical, same number.
Angela gave me both. She told me to sign both.
Okay.
I looked at it quickly. I signed both.
Okay,
So.
I'll check it. Okay, so next on the agenda, just apologize.
I don't know. You can cross off the Boys and Girls Club Polar Plunge.
Okay, no
I
updates
can
on
get
that?
an update on that.
Do you have an update on that?
I do have an update.
Oh, I don't
on
have an
that.
update on
I have an
that. I
update on
texted
that.
her and
The
I said, if you
update
have
is
questions or
that
updates, let me.
I worked with Carter and had him review the release, the liability release for the town. He approved it. I think I forwarded you a
Yes, you
copy.
did.
I forwarded it to the Boys and Girls Club. And so she has that. We're moving forward with the Saturday
The
after.
30th, I
Yep, the
think.
30th from noon to 2.
Okay.
And she's going to work out some of the small details. But yeah, no, we're in good shape for that.
Yeah, I was going to say she did not.
I will
message
not
me
be
back.
going in the water though, so.
No?
just-
You're not gonna sign up?
No, absolutely not.
It might be that cold. I mean, it's 70 degrees out today, right?
Who knows?
Okay, so let's get to the Marshall Park user fees agenda item.
I have one, I can make more copies if you guys want them. This, TJ, you already have this. This is the, all right, so I think this is just gonna be sort of quick right now. I think we just need to put some thought into it, and I think we also need to have Chris Ruth here for this discussion. So I asked Chris Ruth a couple weeks ago for what our contract was for maintenance, for current fiscal year maintenance. And that's what you're seeing on the top. It's broken down by Fitzgerald, McNally, Marshall Memorial, Town Beach, and Wallace Park. I do want to note in here that these are the minimums. He thinks that 17 mowings a year may be on the low side. So just keep in mind that when we're looking at this, this is what our contract is.
The new contract.
The new contract. I did ask, I said, it says year 3 on here. He said, no, it was the same for all 3 years. And then both myself and TJ Laughlin from baseball had asked for some of our financials. It came in later this afternoon than I had time to actually start pulling stuff out. So instead of trying to go way back, I just printed fiscal year 24 so you guys could see it. Some of it is broken out as to which areas they are. Some of it is not. Some of it makes sense, and some of it I'm like, what is this address? So I did ask Angela. It appears that 855 Mass Ave, which is Marshall Park, is actually for some reason in as 837 Mass Ave, which when you pull it up on a map looks like it's Conrad's. So I told her I would work with her to get that fixed. So if you're looking at that, that's what that story is there. But this is the general, like this is what we're paying. We will I will do my best to try to break out for our next meeting, McNally, Marshall, that sort of break down.
It's going to be difficult going back. The old data doesn't include addresses. They're very general.
That's why I was going to hit just FY24.
It's like 1 or 2 years you can do that.
Yeah. And so I'm going to do my best to try to pull all that information out. It would have been easy to just sort it all by Unitil, but the reality is we have Unitil at the town beach, so that's not as easy to do. But this is the ballpark. So that's sort of where we are. I did have printed, and I left it at home on the printer, what our current user fees are, which are for user groups like the baseball, softball program. It's $20 a head for in-town, and it's $30 a head for non-residents. The adult league is $25 a head for resident and $35, I believe, for non-resident. Little League did pay, I keep calling you guys Little League, sorry. Youth baseball paid $3,360 this past spring.
Can you repeat that number?
Yep, $3,360. That was for 168 players. And the Phillies were our only other user group. They paid $700, and they had 20 out-of-town folks on their team, so that's where that $700 comes from.
Okay. So, we put this item on the agenda tonight so that we could start considering it. Basically, I just wanted to try to recognize Karen's request to put this rate consideration to the board. There's a lot of information we need to go over. I understand that if there is a change in rates to be done, the sooner we can make that decision, the better, because you all need that information as you're preparing for the next season. But obviously, it's nothing that we can make a decision on tonight because we simply do not have all the information in front of us. Do we wish to put this on the December agenda so that we can take a stronger look at this?
I'd like to have a conversation with Chris Ruth included and
Absolutely.
See what his take is. I don't know what I sat with him the other day and sort of said, I don't know what we should do here. At the end of the day, it's, we will never, to be clear with you guys, we will never be requesting from you. I say that, but as long as I'm on the board, I can't imagine ever requesting from you folks the full coverage of what it costs us to operate these fields. That would never fly. But I think we're low. I think that there's work that needs to get done even if the Marshall Park plan moves forward. I think there's work to be done, especially down on Powell Field. And we need to start thinking through these and coming up with how we're going to fund them, how much of it we need to ask for the town, how much of it's going to come from fees that we're raising, and that sort of thing. So I think having a conversation with Chris would be beneficial.
Not yet.
Go ahead.
So I think it's also important for us to understand, without having Marshall Park improvements being made, all we can assume is the cost we currently have. So it's going to be a year-by-year approach at this. But one of the things I think that's important for us to do is not only looking at what our costs are, but doing a survey of other communities to find out what they charge.
I tried.
For
Yeah, so I emailed a week or two ago. I emailed. The only person I got a response from was Townsend, and it was very interesting because I said, they probably know this already. I said, my questions, I introduced who I was, and I said, can you tell me what you charge for user fees? And she said, we don't manage any fees. Our town leases them out to the user groups, and they pay for full maintenance. And when I went on and looked, I went on to the nonprofit section of the Mass State website and pulled up what Townsend Youth Soccer was paying. It's considerable for and I'm assuming it's all for the maintenance of their TASA fields that are up in Townsend. So, but nobody else got back to me. So,
I just want to preface all of this with I don't know how long I've been on this commission, like a year and a half, I think.
Probably.
And this is the first time we've really talked at all about user fees, about cost of the maintenance, looked at any of this. So I appreciate everybody's time here. I'm not saying we shouldn't have a discussion about this. We have not talked about this, discussed this. You just said we should look at what we have. We haven't looked at what we have. We haven't done, or I haven't as a commissioner. Like, we have not
Yeah, we just received
had
most of
this
this information this
discussion
evening.
or anything. So
seeing it.
I'm not saying nobody should be here. I love anybody coming to a meeting anytime because I've spent decades sitting in meetings with nobody coming. So I'm not saying that. But as far as an in-depth discussion or a weighing in on what we might intend to do, I have no idea what we might intend to do other than try to figure out what we've been doing and if it's sufficient, how it might change, where it might need to change. There's been a lot of changes in town too, and how things are getting maintenance, or if they're actually getting maintenance, or what is happening. There's a lot of things going on, and I do not feel up to speed on this at all. So
And I think we think that we're such a big project ahead of us at something that affects so many people, that might be the problem.
I can also give context to why I'm here if I can talk.
Yep, I think we're done.
Yeah,
with
I'd
comments.
echo what Colleen is saying, and I think it's important that everyone that's in this room tonight is here, and in terms of having a discussion going forward. Like, I don't think there's not any decisions that are being made tonight. But I think having valuable input, this iteration of this commission has definitely demonstrated that we want valuable town engagement and input in anything that we're doing. And so I think that, the fact that everyone that's here tonight is here is beneficial in terms of starting this discussion and understanding everyone's perspectives, and gathering as much information as we can so that we can make the proper decision. I think going forward, when Marshall is done, I think it's a completely different discussion, again, to your point, because it's a more widely utilized space, right? Like, now we're talking about basketball courts and pickleball courts, and we're talking about restrooms, and we're talking about a pavilion, and we're talking about, like, there's a lot of different things going on, a completely revamped playground, a skate park, there's a completely different perspective at that point when a project is done than what our parks currently are.
But keep in mind, we had all those things, and we let them all go. So there's a little trepidation. But fine, we'll throw another bomb out there,
Yep.
and then 10 years from now, what's it look like?
Yep.
I played on those fields at 8 and 9 years old when those snack shacks were up and ripping, and all the parades, everything was a lot different. And it took one person to say, I ain't putting that rake away, and then 2, and then 3, and then when I came back to see it, I just don't ever want to see that happen again.
But I think that's the intent of this commission. I think you're hearing everybody here say that there's a reason that we're volunteering our time to sit here and do that. And the reason you guys volunteer your time, like, no one's paid to do this.
That's right.
You guys aren't, we're not. It's, we're here to make sure that, I didn't grow up here. I grew up in the North Shore. I've lived here for just about 20 years, coming up on 20 years, 19 and a half years. And I've seen things, I've sat when they talked about building a new school and how if they had actually maintained the high school, maybe we're not building a completely new high school. But instead, there were holes in the auditorium so the kids would get rained on. So, like things are let go. Like, there's a lot of different things in this town that, need to be addressed. And this commission is here to make sure that, we establish and set parameters and set guidelines and the word is escaping, but points that everything that we do is maintained moving forward. We've actually spent some time going
So-
through all of the different things that we have under our purview in town to make sure that we're doing a better job of maintaining those sorts of things.
And if I can piggyback off Chris on that, so this ground maintenance contract didn't exist 8 years ago. And
I wanna
here
ask you about that.
we, and I'll let you do it in 1 second.
Yeah, sure.
But here we are. It's what we're seeing now. It took facilities been on board for what, 4 years? I think they came on during COVID. You know, we didn't have that before. We fell under the DPW before, where, you know, they're trying to pave our roads and we're trying to make sure that we have safe fields. It just wasn't a good mix, and we were moved over to facilities when they brought somebody from facilities on. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Are we picking up pieces from years of the, you know, our facilities not being taken care of? Absolutely. But are we slowly making progress? Yes. Could we make more progress? Sure. But there's got to be a money trail with it.
Yeah.
And right now, that we're scraping out what we can from the town to increase the budgets, and this is where we are. So,
Can I ask who's responsible for that?
Chris Ruth,
Not Parks,
correct?
right? Yeah. So I do want to say why I'm here though, because what you said is actually pretty interesting. If this user fee conversation happened under that mentality, no questions asked, right? It's a fair thing for parks to do, right? But actually, you have more than baseball, softball under your control. You also have basketball already, right? Wallace Park is
have
on the
court at
field
Wallace.
rental.
Court Walls.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not, so it's, in my discussion, it's not utilized for any,
But it's still
Organized sport.
It's a
It's
rentable field.
oh, sure.
It's a currently rentable field
Well,
under your control.
Not field, but it is rentable space.
Yeah.
Well, it's on the field rental form is my point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basketball is another sport that Parks runs,
We don't run it, just to be.
takes
We have the
revenue
space
from.
for
I
it.
don't know what the phrasing is, but
I can't tell you
people-
the last time we rented that court, TJ. To just
kind of my point. Second point in a second. But one reason I'm here is because the meetings that I saw was this user fee conversation didn't come up in the last meeting as a hey, let's also talk about the user fees. It came up when the Marshall Park program was paused, and you all took a vote on whether or not to notify us to reuse the fields. And Karen said no, because I want to check the user fees. You guys also have user fees for basketball, baseball, softball fields, and the beach.
well, not user fees, but yes.
You take revenue, right?
We do.
So it didn't seem like you guys were coming at this from the general perspective of let's analyze all the maintenance, right?
We were
And actually,
analyzing the beach costs and everything prior to last.
Beach costs,
season. We
our
start-
beach fees cost went up last year.
We just
Which is
did
great.
that last
That
year,
went up.
Yeah,
ahead
which-
of the season.
which is great. And the second reason I'm here is because I actually heard you say it like last meeting, we don't want to take anything away from, youth baseball, softball. You call it Little League, but it's okay. But
I
actually,
grew up here too. I'm old.
yeah, no, I get it. There's a lot of history there.
My
A lot of
brothers
history.
played Little League. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's going to take a while for us to renovate that idea. But then I watched the capital planning meeting, I think the next night, the night after that, and in the discussion of losing the T-ball field for the Marshall Park program, there was a lot of discussion, including from the facilities director, that we don't need a T-ball field, right? So to me, because we can just put all the kids on other fields, right? I heard that in parks, I heard that in the capital planning. So to me, it seemed like we need to kind of get involved, because it didn't seem like it was a very open request like you were talking about, which benefit of the doubt, sure, if,
So
you can
since
do
you've
that.
targeted
but-
me, TJ, on this, let me be clear on something. We weren't anticipating having you guys on our fields in the spring. So my no vote was because I wanted to take a look at what we could do for the spring in terms of user fees, because we didn't intend for you folks to be there. It's fine that we're not doing anything. So yes, we want the fields to be used. If this Marshall Park project hadn't been moving forward, we would have had this discussion. I believe we've had this discussion every year, somewhere in the fall, since I've been on this commission. Every single year. So this is not something new. It's not something that came out of the blue. If you had always been slated to use that park and Marshall Park project wasn't moving forward, then it still would have been brought up. It just, that was the timing of when it was brought up, because,
The vote was to notify us, that's all.
Which is fine.
It would have been a simple,
I think
Not to
she
argue
was
this- not to
just
belabor this
making
point,
while
it's
we're
just-
talking about this, because sometimes in a meeting, we're talking about something and something comes up that somebody's like, I'd like to talk about this, I'd like to look at this, I'd like to get this on an agenda. And sometimes there's information that needs to be pulled from somewhere too. I think it was I've been meaning to have us look at this and talk about this. I'm thinking about it, we're talking about this. Let's do this. I'm not sure there's a target anywhere.
I don't
I
think
also-
I can include, you gotta understand also the timing of this. So I've coached this 3-4 sports a year for years now. I'm the president of this league. I do different things. And I'm watching, maybe at the same time, we're a little sensitive because we're watching Lunenburg, for whatever reasons, push out youth sports. So you can say no, but literally, at the same time football that's happening, baseball that's happening, softball, and it feels like we're not getting that type of care or even the understanding of how important recreational sports is.
Trust
for
me
the
when
town.
I tell
We kinda
you
feel like we're
it's
pushed
important.
aside a little bit. We just won't feel that way. That's all,
So,
because of
but
some
we
other
have
reasons.
nothing to do with any of, and I had no idea the Bengals weren't playing anymore. They're not,
Understandable.
those aren't our school fields.
Sure. But you
If
can see
we-
the overall picture.
If we had, to be honest with you, the overall picture is becoming clearer because I had a very long discussion with somebody within LISA and found out that they pay between $13,000 and $14,000 a year to use the school fields.
I think that's a season.
I think it's both the spring and I could be wrong.
I
but
think
that's
it
the
used to
number.
be they paid it fall and spring.
Here's the deal, I'm glad for the pay and all that, but I'm talking about youth community sports and
Yeah.
the importance of youth sports
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
on the growth organically of a community. Not transplants, transports, organically keeping families here, pouring it out as we have talked to other towns and they're not charged the way we are. Or the
If you can
teeth
send that
we
to
have
us, that would be
build
awesome.
up. We've got a lot of that information because naturally we feel for some years we fended for ourselves and then we're kind of pushed like, you need to do more, you're volunteers, it's the way it always is, just do it. So then all of a sudden we're like, we don't even have room in our own town. But different things. So
We have
I'm just
more
saying
room.
that there's a narrative, whatever reasons people may have, unfortunately. At the same time, it's all looking like Lunenburg doesn't understand this, and our youth are paying for it.
And I'd
So-
like to make a comment. I can understand, the perception, but the big picture here is that we are committed to making Marshall Park be an improved park facility that will improve not only the playing fields,
Sure.
but it will provide other recreational and healthy lifestyle opportunities for the entire town.
So take a 20th of that
it's,
cost and
excuse me,
improve what we have.
excuse me,
Just with you.
Can you let
We
her
are
finish?
we're looking to try to make improvements for everyone, and that includes the fields.
Right.
And it's an unfortunate thing that when the project moves ahead, it means that the fields will not be usable for one season or two. It depends on what happens, type of turf that's put in, et cetera, whether it's seed,
Sure,
sod,
sure.
whatever.
Nice.
We don't know yet to be designed and determined. But please understand that it is our sincere hope that we are able to move this Marshall Park project forward
I know.
so that we can make these improvements. So I get very discouraged when I hear people say that it appears as though we're not in support of youth sports.
well, I also want to add though that there's more to parks and youth sports than Marshall. There's also McNally, there's Fitzgerald.
That's right.
That's
Right, and so
true.
so the other part that I'm trying to say, right, is like that contract I love. Like I even helped Chris talk about it. He told me he was going to be putting this together. I love it. Infield maintenance alone. When I go to Air Shirley, the town is lining the softball field for my daughter's game between games. I see the town lining the field. That's amazing. So when I see Chris put on infield maintenance on the budget, I love it, right? But there's no other capital plans listed for any of the parks.
That's not true, because McNally is absolutely on there.
$50,000 design for a
design.
possible T-ball
Yeah.
field.
That's
I'm
where it
talking-
starts.
But that's where it starts.
It has to start
If that's
there.
where it starts.
It has to start there.
And we're
That's how
also-
this project
No, but
started.
what else is involved with it beyond the plans?
But that's step one of
We
the
don't know
process.
yet, but it will
No,
come
but
to.
we're gonna need some upkeep no matter what. what might be there for, so what, but there's nothing.
We're
I guess-
looking at general playing fields at this point, but yet to be
Sure.
determined. It all
Sure.
starts with the land's available. Let's see what the opportunities are.
Well, so-
And it doesn't stop there. I mean, we're looking at land on Northfield as well. That's our role as a Parks Commission, to try to identify what is available, what is the need for sports and recreational facilities in our community.
And we hope you can understand, we're boots on the ground. You're talking to guys who have shoveled 10,000 shovels at those places. So we're invested like you guys are, maybe in a different angle.
Exactly.
But we're advocating for our kids now. We are advocating and being very transparent about our relationship with this town. And we want to be heard on that. You
And
know,
I'm very grateful that you were able to come tonight, and I hope that when we bring this back up to the agenda, hopefully on December, not, the sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned, that you'll be back again, and hopefully we'll be in a bigger room where
so
we can.
when will we be able to see-
More chairs.
when will we be able to see how much will be allotted to each of our fields for this upcoming year?
That will be a
Because right now it does
discussion,
say zero.
this is a discussion that will involve Chris Ruth, who's our facilities
this is.
director.
That's what
He's
this
the one
is.
who makes those decisions.
That's what this is.
So that's actually my question,
This
right?
is a
So
proposal.
so
No,
the-
this is a contract. This
No,
is the
that's what's in
active
place.
contract.
So this is
for the FY
I just want to
25.
be clear. This is field maintenance.
Yes.
There's a lot
Yep.
more to
Correct.
these properties than just field maintenance. And so that's kind of my other question too, right? Is like, is it Parks' only responsibility to put these big design projects in place that renovate the entire field? Because like when I look at the capital plan that Chris presented at capital planning for McNally, that basically tells me that Parks doesn't have a plan to renovate and repair as needed, like Chris does for the buildings. He's not tearing down all these buildings and fixing them, he's repairing. So
it's
that's
all-
my question directly is it Parks' only job to renovate
No.
and
No,
design?
no, that's what I'm talking about.
Are you
So-
guys responsible for
Yeah.
capital plans for maintenance and
all of it.
We work
Yes.
with-
We established the plan. We're in charge. All of the parks in town are under our care and custody.
It has to
So
meet-
what hasn't happened in this commission for a long time, prior to me joining,
Yeah.
prior to Karen being here, and Karen's been a driving force from when she was chair right on through here, of starting to establish a better maintenance plan for our fields because of what we've seen. My son has gone and shot hoops on the rundown
Yeah.
basketball
Yeah.
court in Marshall Park with a tree growing through the middle of the tennis
Yeah,
court.
exactly.
He's gone down, we've cleared stuff out of there and shot hoops in that hoop. That is, I never want to see that in town, and how that got to that shape
What a
is,
great resource.
is beyond my, I can't even comprehend how anyone would allow that to get to that shape. I don't understand it.
We have a
And-
comment.
But we're here to get and make sure we're maintaining all of the parks going forward. But the capital planning that you're seeing for McNally or wherever, that's where it all starts to actually establish what's going to be there, what can we do to improve that space,
But-
and
but
then
we
from there
don't
we
have-
build on that,
we don't
which is
have
where
any-
we're at with Marshall Park.
There's no
Right.
there's no non-design plans for those parks.
But that
though.
comes through
So you're
Chris
saying
Ruth.
That's part
that's
of
my
the
question. So
budget.
he just said it was under Parks domain, but you're saying that's
We established the budget is under Chris.
Budget and policies. We do the
We
policies.
are policy.
Chris has.
so. If we
puts it up.
were so, just ask a very direct question. If we were to say need McNally fence repair, does that go through Parks?
So, yes, it could go through Parks, but I have to preface this whole thing because I don't know who understands the capital planning process or not. There's thresholds we have to meet in order to put forward a capital project. If it doesn't hit, are we at 10,000 or 20,000? Or 25,000, whatever that threshold
I think
is,
it was
we can't submit a project for that amount. So if there's a whole bunch of small projects that, could we advocate for them? Yes, but we don't have a way to fund them. That has to come back to Chris to help fund them. But if it's a repair of something, right? If it's a repair of a fence, if it's that should, I believe, fall to day-to-day, which falls to facilities to repair that. So that shouldn't have to involve Parks for repairs.
So you're saying the field maintenance is all facilities if it's less than 25,000.
Whatever the capital.
Whatever the capital
Whatever the
plan.
capital
I can
plan.
find that out,
We
but
can
you're saying
advocate for it,
anything-
absolutely.
So that kind of confirms that you guys are incentivized almost to focus on the real big projects and visions and renovations.
My incentive sitting here has nothing to do with focusing on a big project or not.
But I
I
mean-
think my incentive is to truthfully make sure, because I'm like you, I'm a coach. I'm a 3-season 3-season coach, 4 seasons because I'm coaching high school summer soccer for girls. So I've coached soccer for 10 years. I've coached basketball for 4 years. My incentive for sitting here is 100% to make sure that we don't have a rundown basketball court like Marshall Park. That is the reason I'm sitting here. I got involved with this commission during COVID, because I said these kids need to get outside and get fresh air, and I came up with a plan to establish soccer in mass on the turf for kids to play soccer. And Karen said, hey, there's an open spot on the commission. So I jumped in, and here I am 4 years later, whatever it is now. But that's how I got here. But my intent of being here is to make sure that our fields, one, don't look like the soccer fields and the football field over here at the school, which unfortunately it's not under our care and custody. There's nothing we can do about that.
Do you think our fields don't look like that? That's a,
Excuse me, I'd like
Yeah,
to get
Mary.
a comment from over
Sorry,
in the
Mary,
corner.
go ahead. Go ahead,
If you
Mary.
could give your
Mary
name.
Braithwaite, 204 Northfield Road.
Thank you.
When you were giving your numbers of who pays for the fields, does the middle school and high school pay to use the baseball and softball fields?
So we have what do you want to call it, an exchange with them?
Mutual exchange, reciprocal agreement.
So it's two things in that. So we have a reciprocal agreement, is that what we just called it? Where the recreation department can use their facilities in exchange for those at no charge to us. But we've been down this road before where we tried to charge the school and the school tried to charge us. It's the town paying the town.
Yeah,
It just
no, I
didn't
get
work
it.
very well. So that's why we have this reciprocal agreement in place. So our soccer camps over the summer, we could hold at the turf and there was no charge to us in the same way we don't charge them for use of
Okay.
the fields.
I was just curious
Yeah.
on that because I know,
Sure.
I mean,
That was a good question.
well, I have a middle schooler and I
Yeah,
also have a
Yep.
elementary, so I have it in a foot in both
Yep.
areas. But I'm just wondering. I guess it's leading to my next question is, you're looking at baseball to get charged, but there's a pickleball, and I've driven by. There's some serious pickleball people.
Over here at the high school?
That's
Like,
not
That's not
Parks.
ours. That's not
No,
ours.
but will they move to Marshall? Is that what I'm?
And I would assume that they would move to
Eventually.
Marshall.
So will they get charged?
If
This
there's
where
leagues.
Yeah.
so.
If there's
We can't charge for courts that are barely on
So that's
paper
my
yet.
point, was saying we're at a totally different discussion. When Marshall Park is done, I think we're having a totally different discussion. Right now, the sport, we want to talk, well, you guys are here to talk about ball fields.
yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
right, that's why you're not here to talk about Wallace Court or anything else, and it may be part of the, might be part of the discussion a little bit, but the premise, that we're mainly discussing, and the majority of what the Parks Commission services as far as field space is baseball, softball.
77%
Vast majority.
of your rentable fields are baseball, softball.
So is there a way to
But when you get to Marshall Park, and when it's completed, it's a complete. I think in my mind, my personal opinion, it's a completely different discussion again, because we are then creating a vastly more utilized space for a significantly larger portion of people in town, between a basketball court, pickleball courts, and a dog park and walking trails, and all of the things, the skate park, all of the things that are going to be there. I think it's a completely different discussion. A year from now, 2 years from now, whatever it is, I think it's a different discussion. But yeah, would we charge for pickleball use if it's a league going in there, a program going in there? 100%.
So will the town start taking over things like the toilets and the trash and start doing that because
It would all still fall under facilities.
It would.
Yep, that's going to be a facility still. Yep.
Yeah, that's great.
Yep. And we have a policy. Currently we have a policy, carry and carry out policy.
Well, we do it all.
Right. No, I know. You guys get dumpster comes in and you let dumpster's gone and all that kind of
They
good
use our
stuff.
dumpster.
So-
Schools use it, they don't pay. We pay for everything.
You can ask them not to.
Right.
No, it's
We're
fine.
not gonna do that.
But I'm just, I don't know what they're throwing, so I can tell you, we have had user groups that have used the school that have been charged for their dumpster when they used it without them knowing. So if it becomes an issue,
Well, that's what we don't want to get to, right? And that's right now we we rent porta potties and the school rents porta potties. That's silly, right? But that's because of the locking requirements that the town gives us. So we're wasting money because of locking requirements. Makes no sense to me.
But we'd have the same, in Marshall Park, we'd have the same locking requirement if the school's putting a porta potty there, it's still a locking requirement.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So they have to have their locks so they can unlock it. We have our locks so we can unlock it. So
You just can't just share a key.
it's interesting.
Share a combination kind of deal, it's a combo lock, whatever, you can't share.
Well, we could, except it doesn't work that way. So, I mean, just to conclude the whole thing, but now our league is negotiating with the schools, which is interesting because it's not our park. But the point I'm trying to make, though, is like what we're really asking for is like the vision you just said of like Parks doesn't want these fields to get degraded, right? But like when we walk on the fields, they are degraded already, right? And it doesn't seem like there's a plan to make them not degraded, right? And
going
forward, what's going to happen for it? And then in the context of discussing user fees, it gets real interesting, like my email said, which is like we see all this stuff. Like I have an actual task list for myself to go fix at the field that I'm going to do this spring at my dollar. Like I actually spend a lot of my own money. But now you guys are talking about potentially raising user fees, but I don't see the back end side of like, we are enabling the park's vision to make these fields great beyond Marshall Park. So if that lands, great, and if it doesn't, are you guys going to be putting things in place to make that park great too, to make that beautiful and sustained, right? Like, is that coming in place too? That's really what this whole conversation falls down.
Sure.
And I don't know how to get things in place. Like, last thing I'll say, because I know I'm rambling, but Chris and I talk a lot. I don't know if it's the right move for he and I to be discussing punch lists of what needs to get done at the fields. That feels weird to me. It feels like that should be a conversation between Chris and Parks. If that's the right model, I can do that. It just doesn't feel right to me.
We can't give, I don't believe, and Anita, correct me if I'm wrong, we can't give you permission to do work on the fields. It needs to go through Chris for a whole bunch of reasons.
No, I mean punch lists that Chris would take care of.
I don't think that it's wrong to have that discussion. I mean, user groups, if you see an issue, it's, you know, whether you tell him directly, if he's fine with that, I'm fine with that. Or if you prefer to go through us and we'll notify him, either way is fine. But it is important to get your feedback on what improvements need to be done. He needs that feedback. He is new in his role. He's been here, what, a year and a half now?
He's great.
And he is trying very hard to get things back up to an even, you know, just a basic level of, you know, usability. So any feedback he can get from people to help him prioritize, actually to identify what needs to be done and then prioritize what needs to be done, that's important for him to know.
Is Parks going to be doing that too?
Yes,
So I would love. So what
we do.
I'd love to see would be copying Chris and the Parks email on, you know, when you see an issue or you have an issue or you have a punch list and so forth. I'd love to read it. I'd love to understand it. I'm not a baseball guy.
Actually, I'm not either.
So, so I don't. So, but you know, I'd love to understand it so we can see that, and then just as a commission, we're looking at, is there a trend? Is there a, you know, an ongoing need that needs to be addressed and folded into a bigger thing? I'd love to understand that, and I don't know, you know, if you're just with Chris. Likely, he's going to bring that up. He's very good at communicating with us.
Yeah, he
but
is.
I'd love to see it. I'd love to understand your punch list. Like, what is the work that you're doing? I'd love to understand that. Like, what goes into what you guys do? You know, I think it's all part of why we're all sitting here and why we do what we do with youth sports and why we're here to maintain parks. And it's, again, 100%. You know, this commission is playing a lot of catch up in terms of making sure that what hasn't been taken care of for a long time is getting taken care of. You know, we did a floor at the beach house. You were awesome coming down and helping. Yeah. You know, you were a beast tearing out the floor of the beach house.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Happy
like
to do that.
things that we need, like things that like that was long, you know, forgotten that
Yeah.
needed to be fixed.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, so those are all those things that we're trying to. And now the intent, you know, going forward, we have a nice new floor in the beach house, right? So let's make sure that we're maintaining that floor in the beach house. So lifeguards next summer are gonna make sure there's no water left on the floor and sweeping it out and
I would love that.
all of those things.
All we're saying is we would love that mentality for the ballparks too. Same
And
mentality.
again, we're playing catch up.
Yes.
We're playing catch up on all of that, and I think, but that is the intent of this commission, and it's 100% the intent going forward. When, again, we don't want to see things run down, mismanaged, not taken care of. Like that's not anything that we set out to do. If we're doing something and spending money on it, I want to make sure that we're getting that money, well invested, and so that we don't have to sink an insane amount of money in down the road to do it again. Let's maintain it the right way.
Final comments?
Just selfishly speaking, I want to see this town take into consideration some of its cultural staples. I am a little, I'm talking about a different sport as well with football, with it. Bengals been around for 55 plus years, and we get booted off while others have priority. Sounds like because you got to have some revenue, we'll get it, but still, that happened. Baseball feels the same way. Little League / Lunenburg baseball, softball, 60 years. And we feel like, and you just got to understand kind of the language of it when you look at the usage of these other places and what we do bring to these parks. I want to be the priority because we bring the most amount of visitors to our parks right now. And that is with a group of guys who busted their tail through COVID, through rebuilding this program. The kids weren't coming out and play. We had to go and tell parents at times, only one person, if the other parent's here, you got to leave. Amazing. And most of us were there for that. And what I'm saying is, when there's decisions to be made and these big things happen, I want to be considered with some of our cultural staples that have been in this town for years and years and years. I'm somebody who's watched Whalen Park disappear, the drive-ins disappear, the bowling alley disappear, the bonfire disappear, you can go on. And nothing was replaced. The little things here and there. I feel like Lunenburg had such that family niche of roots. And something like this, and Lunenburg Youth Baseball, softball, Little League, whatever you call it, we've been around for 60 years on them fields. Same thing with the football, that's a different discussion, but I'd like to see more consideration on something where kind of the priority. We do bring a ton of folks that normally wouldn't come to these fields. And if it goes to soccer field as well, I get that. On that 90 field, you can pull that off. Get a lot more folks out there. Wallace Park, I was down there when that place was packed 4 nights a week with men's basketball. Lights on, 7,500 people there. I'd love to see that all returned. But I feel like right now a lot of our concern is as all these big plans with good intentions are there, we kind of feel brushed aside, and we want a voice for the folks that we've been able to help resurrect to this sport of baseball. We're struggling anyways, but we've got 170-something folks. We've already met some of our highest numbers, and we're going to pass that.
We will give you your voice as often as you want to come to our meetings. We will give you that voice to be able to speak. It is really difficult. I can't say it to you guys enough. It is really difficult when we don't have anybody that comes to our meetings.
Yeah.
It's really difficult when we say to you guys, you have to advocate for the financial needs of our parks, because doing it alone, you only get so far. But we have town meeting coming up on Tuesday. The importance of that meeting for many of us in that room is not lost. But we have a huge number of people that don't come to it, or they come to it when there is something that is very important to them in that given year. But there's always budget issues related to parks that comes up at town meeting. I don't know of any annual town meeting that has not included a budget line somewhere for parks. So we want you to be involved, stay involved, come to our meetings, be active in town, have those conversations with Chris Ruth, have the conversations, if there's a project, we can't do it all, right? We're a 5-member board, there's only so much time. We're volunteers like the rest of you. If there's something that we're missing, if there's a capital plan, or if there's a capital item that you think we're missing, hit us up with it. Sort of give us some direction on how you think it should go, and let us ask Chris Ruth to throw some numbers together so that we can present it on a capital plan. But there was nothing that, when we had to prioritize, there was nothing really that was jumping out at us that was going to be hitting that minimum capital plan line. So if there's something, bring it to our attention, but stay involved, because it's the only way we're going to be able to move forward.
Well, and I would like to just add on to that, to stay involved and make sure you understand how the capital plan works and how all of those things work, because it's not as simple as us putting something on the capital plan. Everything gets prioritized. Chris has to prioritize. buildings and parks together, and then that goes in with all the other committees. And so we might put something on the capital plan, and it might be on there 5 years or something before it even gets concerned. So
But if you don't ask, you don't
consider
get it.
right. So that I'm not saying not to ask, but to understand the process, because sometimes people, to Karen's point, only get involved when there's something that really speaks to them, and then they don't understand the whole process. And so they might say, we asked you to put this on the capital plan and then it didn't get funded. We can only ask and we can prioritize, but we're not the ones who determine
Totally get it.
how it gets. So that's all I'm saying, is to just understand all of
But I
that.
also want to say these guys also are involved in this volunteer type stuff 3, 4, 5 nights a week already. So when we also say, well, you guys got to come to our meetings, you should know what to get doing. Because you want to spend money.
Well, that's what I'm saying, like, include me on those, like, send those messages. Don't just communicate with Chris, like, communicate with all of us so we know what's going on.
And really, that's
Right?
the
I'd love to know.
biggest win
I'd love to
for all of
know.
us to
Yeah.
just stay-
I'm in the same boat as you guys, on a soccer field, 3, 4 nights a week. I coached 2
Yeah.
teams last spring.
Volunteering.
Like, it's, I'm on
we need to be
the,
involved.
I guess I do charge the Parks Commission to walk the fields.
We have
we did,
What does the Powell dugout look like?
a mess.
It's gross. That's an easy $25,000 capital plan.
But
And
that's-
I'm just using that as an example.
Right,
Just
which
as a
we can
capital
put,
example.
we can put on
say-
though, in 15 years from now, it might hit its priority. I'm just saying, we can't guarantee just because we put something, there's so
I
many
understand,
things
Lisa.
that are,
Totally
there's so
understand.
many things that are needed around town, you
I
know?
totally
I mean, so
understand.
I'm not saying that wouldn't
And
get
you have to
funded,
remember,
but.
we're here as, we are elected by the community as a whole to represent them as a whole. We have to look at the community as a whole. So when you bring up dugouts, or let me give you a better example, when you bring up that the size of the field is no longer in the dimensions that you need because you chose to go to a league without even having a conversation with us, it's put us in a situation where now you're saying you need this, and we're sitting there saying, well, we didn't know you needed that. You didn't have a conversation with us that you needed that. And we have the town as a whole to look at. And when we were planning Marshall Park, that's what we were looking at, the town as a whole, to try to get as many amenities in there for everybody from, brand new out of the womb where they can go for a walk with their parent, all the way up to, our 100-year-old residents who might just be looking to go sit on a bench and have a picnic lunch. We're trying to accommodate everybody in there. So just remember, as you look at all this, I totally understand and respect that you're here for your program, but understand that we as a Parks Commission are here for the entire
As
town.
long as we don't, as the majority, get bumped out or get pushed out, then of course we want everyone here.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody was trying to push you guys out at all. I think we're
Literally not on
trying
purpose, they
to.
just was gonna-
No, and I don't know what happened with the Bengals. It's been a long time since my kid was on the Bengals.
if you were getting pushed out, there
No.
wouldn't be ball fields on the Marshall Park plan.
Correct.
I'll just
Right. I mean, we've talked. I talked more
Like,
baseball in
that'd
the
be a-
last year.
that'd be a bigger clue
and
that we were pushing you.
Yeah.
okay, well, we thank you very much for being here this evening.
Real quick, Brian DeFelice, 43 Brown Ave. I think really the thing that, a big reason why a lot of us are here, when we heard that we have all this money, you have all this money, which I know that a lot went into it, it's not necessarily your money to spend as you please. But when you heard that you're giving a chunk back to the town, we just have so many things that we
That's
would
so.
love to see
Do you
that
understand
money
how that works
I
now,
totally
though?
do.
Like if somebody
I just-
put those pieces together,
It's just
that
painful for us to
yeah, we
hear.
can't reallocate that money somewhere else. If we could reallocate it someplace else, let me tell you, our beach house wouldn't be falling apart.
Yeah.
It's I shouldn't say falling apart because we've had a lot of work done in it, but everything always needs improvement. So if we could reallocate, we would. That's not money that we can reallocate.
And I guess that goes to some of my point about
Excuse me.
there's a lot of nuance about how process works, municipal process and everything works. And when you sort of jump into little things here and there, or even if you follow something for a time period, but it's something that's important to you, you don't understand how the other stuff works, it can seem like we're taking this money and saying we don't have it, we're going to give it back because we don't have anything we want to do with it.
Right.
When really, to Karen's point, we'd love to spend it all, but it's not our money to do that. It was given for this purpose, and if we're not going to use it for that purpose, then we have to give it back.
But 5
and have
other
it-
departments made
In
request, though.
park.
Right, so I'm
So they
just
were
saying
ready
it's just not as,
with requests.
it's not about,
Sorta.
But you
Yeah.
know,
You know,
I mean, we
it's
can help.
just-
If you guys need our help, we're happy to do some legwork into finding, you know.
which
whatever
is
we
great,
can do.
and
Could it stay
support
in
is
Marshall
great
Park?
too, you know, and there may be a time where we need people to show up at a town meeting for support, like this, but at a, things like,
Could ARPA stay within Marshall
Yeah.
Park, the money that we're turning back? So the problem with it is that, as you heard Carter mention, we didn't have, with the Marshall Park project, we had very limited town involvement from the administrative side. So we're now in a situation where the town's ARPA funds have to be under contract by the end of the year. I've sat with Chris and had this conversation. He doesn't know of a project that we could get under contract by the end of the year that hits that.
no, and you asked
Doesn't
him,
mean
you
have to-
asked him that
the
2 weeks
process.
ago,
We asked
if there
him
was
2 weeks ago.
anything,
The
and
process
Chris
is too long to
said
get it.
It's because of
I
the
saw that.
couldn't
procurement
get
process.
anything
saw that,
done,
but
so
that-
it's not
this is-
we don't want to do
I
this.
really don't
It's
want to
a-
get into that level of discussion
You know?
tonight. I think we've gotten some good feedback from you all. I appreciate your coming. We'll be putting this concept of the user feedback on the December agenda, and we welcome you to that meeting. So thank you so much for coming tonight.
Do you have a
Appreciate
date
it.
for that meeting?
Excuse me?
Do you have a date already for that, or
We'll
is
probably
it not
have it
scheduled?
later in the
We'll
meeting.
be
Okay.
discussing it later.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you all. Probably the 18th.
Brown State Skate Park.
Okay, let's see. Next item is the skate park update and timing of access. Excuse me, I apologize. Trying to get over a cold. After our last meeting, the rep for the skate park called and said, he watched the meeting and just wanted to know what that meant in terms of their ability to get in to work on the skate park. Did it mean that they would have, the ability to go in basically at any time and try to get that done? And I said the answer was maybe, and I wouldn't know until after tonight's meeting, where we would need to decide as a commission, when we, want to say, yes, they, have the ability to, get in there and start their project. He did say that they basically are good to go. I asked him if he had all his funding in place, and he said he had everything ready to go. So that's good news for them. I was pleased to hear that. So I just need some discussion and a vote tonight about, do we want to tell the skate park group that they are good to go to start their construction this fall or anytime during next year? Because even if we do move ahead with Springtown meeting and get authorization, we would not be doing any work next year.
If they're ready, then I'd say give
Good
them
with
the
a yes.
timeline that they, if they can
And
do
it-
something this fall, then go, if it
It's
makes
not
sense,
going
then
to
it makes
impact
sense.
the use of the fields, right? Or is it?
No, it would not.
Right, that's what I thought. So they can be doing that, and they were going to have it so that people can
Still park and walk.
and be around during the construction. So I think as long as
There's no impact to
if
field
there's
use
no
and so
impact
forth.
to the
and-
field use, that we just said they could use again, that we should go ahead and have them get moving. I mean, they.
You need a motion probably.
Yep, we do. I definitely want a motion and a vote on this. So if somebody wants to
Can I
move.
just ask one question before we vote this? What would happen if we go to Springtown meeting, it gets approved, the earliest build date you think would be FY '27, you think? Or do you think it would actually happen after?
From the design meeting that we had the other day, they were saying that we would likely get town meeting approval in the spring, finish the design, do all the permitting, and be ready to put the project out to bid in late 2025.
Okay.
So there, it may be that the timing would work, that some work could start in late 2025, but
I just don't want I don't want to be giving the skate park permission to be going in there and then have something happen on their end where they have a delay and then we end up back in the same cycle of. So is there any, would there be any verbiage we should use to I don't know if there's any.
Do we need to give them an end date or something?
why don't we give them a timeline, say, they have access to get into the field and do their construction up to, say, October 1st.
Okay.
And then if we need to extend that, we can. By then, we'll know where we stand in terms of our construction.
Their right of entry is still valid?
Good question. I'll check on that.
Okay.
I mean, I think the right of entry allowed us to adjust the dates. I don't think that changes in and of itself. I think it's our determining what dates we were going to allow them to have access.
Okay.
I think you get the sense they'd be done in the spring. I think it's not a long, I don't think it's a long
No.
project.
Especially
I
now
don't
they're
think
saying that
so.
they're good to
I don't
go.
think it is either, yeah.
Yeah, so I think they'd be done some,
So
by
I'll
summer.
make a motion to allow the skate park to move ahead with construction through, and I don't know what the best wording is,
Assuming it doesn't interrupt use of ball fields.
Yeah.
with no interruption in use of ball fields. Well,
Except for T-ball.
except for T-ball.
Except for
And through October 1, 2025. What, is that how I want to phrase that?
I think it makes sense. Second.
Yeah, and I mean, if we're talking about trying to get approval at May town meeting,
Well, no.
we're gonna have no shovel hitting the ground
Right.
before October 1st.
No,
You-
it would not be feasible.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's fine. We can give them that time. And I think, to your point, I don't think it's going to take that long if they can actually
The
get.
other thing,
Yeah, their
the thing
project
that
was
if I
fairly
under-
fast.
Yeah, if I understand it, their project is built with the, to incorporate new Marshall Park.
Yes, it is.
So there may be some, some level.
Yeah, Tony did say that it may look a little weird for a while.
Some level issues
until-
for a little bit, just so people are on the same
Right,
page.
as long as they
and this is a meeting
understand.
or whatnot.
It's a work in
So there'll be a-
process.
Right. That it's really phase. What was
It's like phase
0 and a half?
Yeah, it's like phase,
Right,
phase,
because what do we have?
phase zero
E
A.
and a
kind of
half.
thing to do,
That's
right,
what
yeah,
I was
yeah.
going to say. How do we
Can we
go
call it zero-
before 1?
Zero C for, you know,
Zero
Zeros.
C.
I still like a half. I like to throw in a half.
zero C and a half.
You'll see in a half.
Okay, so we've got a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks. All right. Let's see. All right, I do not have any updates. Oh, actually, I do have one quick update. Carter Terenzini, our interim town manager, did send a letter to the state, to Melissa Cryon, who is the grants program administrator for the Department of Conservation Services, to let them know that we were not able to move ahead with the Parks Grant and the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant. And I do have to say that when Tom Doolittle, OPM from Skanska, and I called Melissa about this, she was obviously very, frustrated that we weren't able to move ahead. But she did strongly encourage us to reapply. She said
Oh, good.
the two projects were very good projects. They scored well, and that she hopes that we reapppply.
Oh, good.
We will.
Yeah. But that's
the
encouraging.
documents.
It
You know
is.
Yeah, we
that
just,
it's
we just
not
send it again, right? Change the date.
I don't know.
Just erase the date and hit send.
just a little cut.
Okay, so that's my chair update. Anyone have any other updates from any of the subcommittees that you're part of?
No.
I do not.
Okay. We have minutes to approve. Did anyone get a chance to look them over?
You did or didn't?
I did.
I did not.
The only one I had questions on was I believe it's the August one. There's no date on it.
They didn't put the August date on it?
Yeah, it's no date.
That's a poor cutting and pasting job in Sharon's part. Let me open that. What do we do this way?
The other thing is, having been the one who took minutes of meetings for so many
What
years.
does it say at the top of that? Is it August 31 or August 21?
Oh, this was the phone call. Yes. Yeah.
It is way up here.
No, I'm gonna
August 21.
fix it. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I open the right
Yeah.
thing. That's so funny because there it is right there. I have it. I don't know what I was sent to.
So we've got the minutes of July 1. Do we want to approve these as a group with edits, or do we want to do it minutes by minutes?
I didn't have any edits outside of, I didn't notice the date was missing, so I'm fine approving it as a,
Okay,
As a
Colleen,
whole?
how about you?
I mean, I'm fine with doing it as one.
I just have a comment that I just wish she'd be more specific in terms of actual votes taken. I don't see, excuse me. Typically, I like to see, that somebody brought up a subject matter, there was discussion about the subject matter, and so-and-so moved, so-and-so seconded, the chair took a vote, all in favor, all yes, type thing. If she could use that, it'd make it much more clear in deciding
Sure.
what actions are actually taken.
Okay, I'll tell her to watch this part of the meeting when I email her.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, that's right.
Excuse me. Okay, do we want to, somebody want to make a motion to approve the minutes as a group with edits?
I'll make a motion to approve there were 3 sets of minutes in there, right?
July
I think
1st,
it's
August
4.
21,
It's 4.
September
September and October.
18th, and October 10th.
I'll make a motion to approve all 4 with edits.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. Okay, upcoming meeting dates?
December 18th is the 3rd Wednesday. That's a week before Christmas. We're early this month, so do we want to meet earlier in December?
I don't necessarily have a strong preference. I just want to make sure we can use a bigger room.
Absolutely, yeah.
This one pulling up the count.
I mean, I have no problem with the 18th. There's nothing that,
Yeah, it's open in my calendar.
That's the third Wednesday,
That's the
right?
3rd Wednesday.
it'll be our normal meeting
That would be
date.
our normal, yeah.
So the room downstairs probably is available.
Should be available.
Right? It's not.
No, because the third
Who's moving in?
Wednesday of October was the assessor's office, the Board of Assessors. And they met, let me see where they met.
Are they in here?
I don't know.
They met.
No, they met at the
last
Bellata
time.
meeting room. They were in Bellata, and we were over here. So maybe they're doing the first. Joe, do you know the answer to that?
Well, I know that the ZBA meets on Wednesdays. It's usually the second or the third Wednesday of
Okay.
the month, but they don't always have meetings.
Okay.
So you have to watch for that one.
So why don't we do this? Let's. I know the chair of the Board of Assessors. So why don't we aim for the 18th? Location to be determined, which I will figure out in the next week, and I'll let everybody know if they are planning on meeting in this building. Maybe they can flip flop space with us because they're a small group and we're obviously larger with more people coming.
And we'll have a large,
And
Convention again.
if we can't get that room for some reason, I can see if we can get the Bellata meeting room. And if that fails, I'll see what I can grab at the senior center.
okay.
So, but if we can get downstairs here, we don't need to have any recording
Right.
stuff because we can just use the
Camera,
owl.
whole thing, yeah.
Yeah.
The hoop.
Okay, so December 18th, location to be determined. Thank you, Karen, for working on that. I appreciate it. Okay. Other general board comment? Anything anybody has any concerns about?
No, just in general, since the discussion we had tonight, I hope, everyone either watching or the folks that were here, continue to understand the work that goes into it and, all that we do and continue to, I think, open have a good line of communication going forward, whether it's baseball, softball, whoever, basketball, whoever's going to be using our facility. I'd like to continue to encourage an open dialogue and not have it be us sitting in a room. Engage with people coming in. I think we've done, as a commission with larger projects, we've done a great job of doing that and engage the community. So it was nice to have people here tonight. Nice to hear their perspective, and I'd like to see that continue.
Yep, I agree. Okay, anyone else? Public comment?
No one on Zoom.
Joe?
No one on Zoom.
Okay, and we have no correspondence or announcements to make, so I will call for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn at 8:33 p.m.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.